Welcome to the newspaper review. I am your presenter, Fatou George. On today's point newspaper headline, Dabo named UDP flag bearer for 2026 presidential election. Armed with cutlasses, knives, youth gang launches two-day violent attack in Welingara. Bensouda faces scrutiny over loans, assets and council deal. Cornerstone Group to transform Senegal's agriculture with $300 million solar plan. MPs question Interior Minister over controversial overseas ID scheme. Now the news in detail. Residents of Welingara are living in fear following two consecutive nights of violent attacks by armed youth gangs, which left several people injured and local business in ruins. The community is now bracing for possible retaliation as tensions continue to escalate, with urgent calls for government intervention. According to eyewitness accounts, the first attack occurred on the night of 7th September at around 11 p.m. Over 50 young men armed with cutlasses, stones, and other dangerous weapons stormed the area in what many described. They attacked the nearby shop and beat a boy named Mohamed Diop so badly he was left with serious injuries, said Musa Minte, a backway returnee who had rebuilt his life with support from the International Organization for Migration, IOM. They took a phone belonging to Abdurrahman Jaune. Then they came straight to my place. I had customers playing games and I asked them to pass peacefully, but they were armed with stones and dangerous knives. Minte, who had established a small gaming center featuring PlayStation consoles, attempted to shut the door to protect himself and his customers. Moments later, the gang began hauling stones, smashing 3 of his televisions, 2 of which were Star Trek banned, and damaging other equipment. We recognize many of them, he added. Armando Mendy, another victim, said his phone was forcefully taken during the same attack. They found me inside the PlayStation and just took it. I think the government needs to act now. We are also preparing to defend ourselves if this continues. The violence resumed in the early hours of 8 September around 3 a.m. when the gang reportedly returned and randomly attacked residents. Among those injured were Abdoulaye Touré and Lamin Kany. The motive behind the attacks remains unclear, though residents say similar incidents began surfacing last year. The scale and frequency of the violence have left many questioning the effectiveness of current security measures. Tempers flared in the National Assembly yesterday as Interior Minister Honorable Abdoulaye Sanyang faced intense scrutiny over the government's decision to roll out national ID cards for Gambians abroad, while thousands at home continue to face delays and mounting frustration. During the oral questioning session, Honorable Asan Touré, member for Bakau, standing in for the Honorable member for Lower Badibu, challenged the minister to explain why ID issuance had been prioritized in countries such as Mauritania, Gabon and Togo, while citizens in Banjul, Brikama and Bara still struggle to obtain theirs. In response, Minister Sanyang cited Section 17 of the Nationality and Citizenship Act, affirming that all Gambians over the age of 18, regardless of location, are entitled to identification. Whether at home or abroad, a Gambian remains a Gambian, he declared, adding that many overseas citizens risk statelessness or legal complications without valid documentation. However, lawmakers pressed further, questioning the choice of countries. We have more Gambians in Europe than in Mauritania or Gabon. One member urged. Sanyang responded that Europe-bound migrants typically require passports rather than ID cards and assured the Assembly that enrollment centers will soon be opened in Spain, Italy, London and United States, pending visa approvals for Gambian immigration officers. In a move that has stirred both celebration and scrutiny, ANM Ousainou Darboe has once again clinched the United Democratic Party's UDP presidential ticket, making it his 6th time leading the party into battle since its birth in 1996. The veteran lawyer and political heavyweight age-out contenders lawyer Bodi Touré and ex-finance minister Amadou Sane in what insiders described as fiercely contested internal selection. But when the dust settled, it was Darboe who emerged as the party's standard bearer, proving his grip on the UDP remains firm. With this victory, Dabo is now set for a high-stakes rematch against President Adama Barrow in December 2026. Their last face-off in 2021 ensured Barrow secure a second term, but this time the political train feels different and the stakes even higher. Party officials hailed the outcomes as a triumph of unity and democratic spirit, while Dabo loyalties wasted no time celebrating what they see as a steady hand in uncertain times. Critics, however, are already questioning whether the UDP's reliance on its founding figures signals strength or stagnation. The veteran politician, speaking to waiting journalists following the announcement of the results, called on party members and supporters to unite and advance the party's priorities. He urged his supporters to put aside their differences and rally under one umbrella, emphasizing the importance of unity in working towards victory in the forthcoming 2026 presidential election. His Excellency President Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, has effected key changes within his cabinet in accordance with Section 71(1) and 71(3) of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. With immediate effect, Honorable Babukar Usmaila Diouf, formerly Minister for Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, has been resigned to serve as Minister for Defense. In a corresponding appointment, Mr. Modou Cisse, previously serving as Auditor General, has been named Minister for Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment. In a related development, Mr. Cherno Amadou Sow, Director of Internal Audit, has been appointed as Auditor General. Mr. Masire K. Drame will now serve as Acting Director of Internal Audit. These changes form part of the President's ongoing efforts to strengthen governance and enhance institutional efficiency across key sectors. According to Agriculture Minister Honorable Demba Sabali, the Gambia's groundnut sector generated over $688 million in revenue and $9.2 million in foreign exchange last season. In response to a question from the member for Brikama South, Minister Sabali disclosed that the Gambia Groundnut Cooperative GGC purchased 25,097 metric tons of groundnuts in 2025 at a farm gate price of $38,000 per ton. This resulted in a substantial payout of $953.6 million to farmers. However, he noted that the corporation also faced operating costs of $200 million and financing costs of $197 million, leading to total expenditures exceeding $1.3 billion. Ultimately, the revenue generated was $648.2 million, equivalent to $9.24 million in foreign exchange. The government subsidy alone amounted to $627.4 million, Sabali explained. This subsidy was essential to bridge the gap between the prices paid to farmers and the prices at which groundnuts are sold on the international market. As one lawmaker remarked during the heated debate, we are pumping billions into a system that loses money every year. Is this sustainable? Or are we just buying peace in the villages at the expenses of the nation's economy? The minister assured that the government is doing its best to improve farmers' conditions and increase production. Heated exchanges erupted in the National Assemblies as lawmakers sharply criticized the Minister for Lands, Local Government and Religious Affairs, Honorable Ahmad N.K. Bah, for failing to advise the President on the appointment of a paramount chief despite a clear legal requirement under Section 131B of the Local Government Act. The issue was raised by Honorable Alaji S. Dabo, member for Brikama South, speaking on behalf of Brikama North. He reminded the chamber that the matter had been brought up repeatedly, yet the government continued to delay action. Honorable Minister, with all due respect, this is the second time this question has appeared, Dabo stated. The law is clear by not appointing a paramount chief. This government is breaching the very laws it sought to uphold. As policy advisor to the President, will you continue to sit back while the law is broken? Minister Bah conceded that no appointment had been made and admitted His Excellency the President is currently not considering such appointment until further notice. When pressed on the reason for the delay, he responded, "Probably because I have not advised him." The admission drew sharp criticism from lawmakers who accused the minister of negligence and complicity in undermining the rule of law. In sport, head coach of the Gambia senior national team, Jonathan McKinstry, is delighted following his side's back-to-back wins in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Coach McKinstry was speaking to journalists shortly after the Gambia's 2-0 win over Burundi in their 8th qualifiers match played at the Nyayo International Stadium in Nairobi, Kenya, on Tuesday night. He described the Scorpions' back-to-back wins in the global biggest football showpiece as perfect. Coach McKinstry said the Gambia had never won back-to-back in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. He further said the Scorpions performed brilliantly during the match and scored 2 goals to snatch a back-to-back trim in the global biggest football showpiece. Coach McKinstry hinted that the Gambia will play against Gabon in their 9th qualifiers match next month, a battle the Scorpions will fight hard to settle scores after they lost to Gabon 3-2 in their 3rd match of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Thus, the Scorpions have to scuffle to beat the Gabonese to secure 3rd place in Group F of the global biggest football qualifiers showpiece. The Gambia women's national team have returned to training at the Palmarima Beach as their Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers match against Kenya draws nearer. The Queen Scorpions are working hard to build momentum ahead of their Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers match against the Kenyans in Nairobi next month. The players have continued to show strong commitment and determination during training. Moving on to the Standard newspaper headlines, Dutch minister asks Parliament to facilitate repatriation of Gambian minors. Minister announces ID cards issuance in Guinea-Bissau. Mayor Bensouda admits drug procurement contract could have been better. Alpha Capital Partner says Cabinet Subcommittee authorized sale of Jammeh's properties in Banjul. Timeless Restaurant Hospitality School starts admission. NAMS demand explanation for non-appointment of Paramount Chief. Spain warns absconding could jeopardize migration agreement with Gambia. Trade Minister resigned to defend. Now the news in detail. Government Minister in the Netherlands has formally written to his country's parliament seeking approval to begin repatriation procedures for underage migrants from the Gambia and Ethiopia. The minister's request followed a research commissioned by the country's Immigration and Naturalization Services, which concluded that minor asylum seekers from Ethiopia and Gambia can safely return to their country of origin. According to Dutch media reports, the acting Minister of Asylums, David Van Wil, informed lawmakers that dozens of Gambian and Ethiopian minors currently in states, shelters or in contact with Dutch authorities may be returned to their home countries. The minister urged that current rules which prevent repatriation of children without adequate legal and welfare guarantees have left minors living in legal limbo for years. The letter reportedly stressed that returning these children in cooperation with the governments of the Gambia and Ethiopia could create durable solutions that address family reunification home back while easing pressure on Dutch social services. The minister's proposal has already triggered sharp reactions within Parliament. Opposition parties and child rights advocates warn the forced repatriation could breach international conventions protecting the rights of the child. They highlight that many of the minors fled unsafe conditions or were victims of trafficking along migration routes from Africa to Europe. Alpha Barry, a co-partner of Alpha Capital, the firm hired by the government to sell properties forfeited from former President Jammeh in Banjul, yesterday told the commission that they received authorization from the ministerial committee comprising the ministers of land and tourism to sell properties in Banjul. The firm was hired to replace Augustus Prompt following the submission of the Jammeh Commission report to the president. Explaining to the parliamentary committee the procedures his firm took to sell the properties in Banjul. Mr. Barry said the ministerial subcommittee will meet and identify the number of assets and right to him with authorization to sell the properties they embarked. The failure of government to appoint a paramount chief has attracted the attention of National Assembly members who yesterday demanded explanations from the Minister of Lands, Local Government and Religious Affairs, Hamad Bah. Section 131B of the Local Government Act mandated the appointment of a paramount Sefu or chief. Commenting on the issue, Lamin J. Sane, member for Brikama South, expressed frustration, noting that this was the second time the question had been raised. He told Minister Bah, "You are the policy advisor to the President in respect to the protection of the laws of this country, and failing to appoint a paramount Sefu is a contravention of the law." Minister Bah acknowledged the legal provision but revealed that the President is not currently considering the appointment until further notice. Interior Minister Abdoulaye Sanyang has disclosed in the National Assembly yesterday that following the successful issuance of national identity card to Gambians in Mauritania, Gabon and Togo, the government is about to dispatch another team to Guinea-Bissau. When asked by Banjul Central lawmaker Abdoulaye Diagne whether this scheme is a government strategy or based on country need, the Interior Minister replied, "Generally, it is a government strategy, but we are doing it case by case depending on the request from a particular country. We are just from Guinea-Bissau and there was a request made, so we are going to send a team to Guinea-Bissau also." Bakau Nam Asanture asked the minister to explain why the exercise is going on outside the country when Gambians within the country find it difficult to acquire ID cards. Minister Sanyang replied that the Gambia Immigration Department, GID, has a legal responsibility to serve all Gambian citizens irrespective of their geographical location. The Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested a Gambian female adult with 982 pills of ecstasy at Barra Ferry Terminal in the North Bank region. The arrest is part of the agency's ongoing efforts to combat drug trafficking and abuse in the Gambia. The suspect is currently assisting the police in their investigation. Apart from the seized 982 pills of ecstasy, the agency has also seized 31 bundles of cannabis sativa, 10 parcels, 156 wraps, and some quantities of cannabis, hashish, strong cannabis, and cocaine. According to DLEG spokesperson Usman Seydi Bah, a total of 21 accused persons, including 19 Gambians, 1 Senegalese, and 1 Canadian, were arrested in connection with the seizures. Quoting from the agency's situational report, Mr. Seydi Bah said the arrestees faces charges of possession and trafficking of prohibited drugs contrary to Section 35 and 43 of the DCA 2003. He stated that the agency successfully prosecuted and secured conviction in 5 drug-related matters during the reporting period, adding that 5 new drug possession-related cases were filed, all related to prohibited drugs. The agency remains committed to reducing drug demand and supply in the Gambia. The Spanish embassy in Banjul has issued a stern warning that absconding migrant workers will threaten the circular migration agreement with the Gambia. The agreement allows regular entry into Spain based on labor needs with an emphasis on young people and women. The Ministry of Trade and Employment has confirmed that out of 37 Gambians due back home following the completion of their 3-month seasonal work in Spain, only 4 have returned home, 31 are believed to have absconded, while 2 are known to have missed their flight. But in a statement issued yesterday, the Spanish embassy said the group of Gambian workers benefiting from the first circular migration pilot of Spain have ended their contract and are expected to return to the Gambia in compliance with the conditions of the program. The embassy added that Spain remains fully committed to provide legal pathways to Gambian citizens in order to prevent the loss of lives in the previous irregular routes and provide economic opportunities. Spain counts on the goodwill of all Gambians to succeed in these common challenges. The mayor of Kanifing Municipal Council, Talib Ahmed Bensouda, testified before the Local Government Commission of Inquiry yesterday about the procurement of 19 trucks by the Kanifing Municipal Council, KMC. Yesterday, the Commission's investigation focused on the contract between KMC, Space Motors and Ajib Bank for the purchase of the trucks. Mayor Bensouda admitted that the contract's execution may not have followed the best practices. According to him, the council's lawyer typically reviews all contracts, but in this case, the contract was not sent to the Ministry of Justice but reviewed before signing. I believe the reason it was done was probably raised by the councillors or raised by a committee because we don't usually send any contracts to the ministry, he said. The timeless chain of restaurants will next month open a hospitality school at its plus new Wild Monkey restaurant in Senegambia. The school will offer intensive training courses in bar and restaurant services, cookery and pastry. Alongside those regular courses will be trainings on tour operating, bird watching, drumming and dancing. This will provide an exciting opportunity for students to learn to play local and international musical instruments and hospitality security. We are offering this training at our restaurant at New Wild Monkey in Senegambia for a total of 3 months. A statement from Timeless states the course's fees are $7,000 with a $500 registration fee, making it a total of $7,500 to be paid at the time of registration. In sports, Gambia international Yankuba Minteh of Brighton has been named by Yahoo Sport as one of the fastest players in the Premier League's opening week. In its reflection of the opening week of the EPL, just before the current first international break of the season, Yahoo Sports assessed the Premier League's early passer in terms of goal scoring as well as its fastest players. Helen Hillan leads the early running for the Golden Boot, while a revitalized Jack Grealish tops the playmark standings after a good start at Everton. Now to the foreign newspaper headlines. Brikama Children's Court stalled for months without magistrate. 60 Chinese and Vietnamese in court for cybercrime case. Interior Minister discussed ID card issuance abroad. Now the news in detail. For more than 2 months, the Brikama Children's Court has been without a sitting magistrate, leaving dozens of cases involving young people in limbo. The court, once overseen by Magistrate Therese William, has struggled to resume normal sittings since her resignation earlier this year. Magistrate William, who left her post to pursue private legal practices, now serves as the legal counsel for the National Water and Electricity Company, NAWEC. Her departure came after the landlord of the court's rented premises in Brikama, Jamisa, forced the institution out and the staff were relocated to the Brikama Magistrate Court between February and March 2025. In the absence of a permanent replacement, Principal Magistrate Anna Omendi, who recently returned from China, was asked to step in temporarily. But the stopgap arrangement has not been enough to clear the growing backlog. On the court grounds, frustration has been mounting. Victims and families who travel long distances say their cases are repeatedly adjourned with no clear timeless for resolution. Every time you come, the court clerk will give adjournment date, one victim said. When I asked about the magistrate, the clerk told me I can come back on the next adjourned date or call him and he will tell me if there is a magistrate or not. The delays have left some of the most vulnerable litigants, children and their families waiting in uncertainty with no indication of when the court will be fully functional again. A new tenancy bill aimed at curbing arbitrary rent increases and strengthening tenant protections has been validated by key stakeholders in the Gambia, marking what officials describe as a legislative milestone for the country's housing sector. The Gambia Rent and Tenancy Bill 2025 was unveiled on Wednesday, September 10, at a stakeholder consultation convened by the Ministry of Justice. Participants included representatives of local councils, ministries, the National Human Rights Commission, civil society, religious leaders, the media, and members of the legal community. Housing has become one of the country's most pressing challenges. Urban centers such as Banjul, Serekunda, and Brikama have seen an influx of people seeking jobs and services, pushing rental prices beyond the reach of many families. The inadequate regulation has left tenants exposed to sudden evictions, arbitrary rent hikes, and exploitative contract terms. At its core, the bill sets clear responsibilities for landlords and establishes legal safeguards for tenants. Among its most striking provisions, the legislation caps rent increases at 5% every 3 years, unless otherwise directed by the minister, and requires landlords to give tenants at least 3 months' notice before any increase. Africa is embracing a new chapter in its digital revolution as leaders and innovators double down on locally built instant payment system to bridge the continent's persistent financial inclusion gap. Despite impressive advances in mobile technology and fintech, more than 400 million Africans remain excluded from basic formal financial services. A statistic experts say threatens to undermine the promise of digital transformation. This urgent challenge took center stage at a recent peer learning event in Lagos, hosted by the Africa Nenda Foundation in partnership with the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System. Delegates from over 20 African countries gathered to share insights and reaffirm a collective vision. Africa's financial future must be designed by Africans for Africans. Moving on to sports, the resigning champions of the Gambia's top-tier Real de Banjul have lined up an international friendly against Senegal side Stade de Mbour as they continued preparation for the forthcoming CAF Champions League qualifiers. The game will be played tomorrow at the club's home ground in Bassuri. This will be the second international test match the City Boys line up and form part of their preparatory friendlies they are organizing. The Gambia was against Guinea-Bissawian outfit sport club Portos Bissau, who they thrashed 4-0. The three-pet champions have also tested themselves locally, trombing in one and losing the other. This is all we have for you in our today's newspaper review. Do stay tuned for more newspaper review, and please don't forget to subscribe, like and share our videos. I remain your presenter, Thdtv.